Hello and welcome to the Browns Blitz. Today is Tuesday, July 20th. I'm your host, Rod Bloom. Today, we're going to take up part 3 of Racism in America. We have our distinguished panel back together. It's been about 10 months since we last convened and talked, so I'm going to bring these guys in one at a time. And first of all, Slim Dog at Slim Dog. Slim, how are things going?
Good, Rod. Good to be back with everybody again. It was such a great time 10 months ago. I can't believe it's been almost a year since the last time we all gotten together. Time flies.
It goes really fast, man.
Yeah. A lot of things have happened, in those 10 months. So It'll be a real interesting conversation tonight, and I'm looking forward to it.
Definitely. Next, Dwayne B. Evans. Dwayne, people can find you at DB Excellence. How are things going?
Everything is going wonderfully. Our company is growing. We get ready to hit our 6th annual footage truck event. We'll collect the toiletries and the blankets and stuff for the homeless. So we partner with Magnolia Project and Shiloh Baptist Church. So we made a real community event this year. So everything is good. We're got like 22 days left before we hit that event. One of our biggest events of the year. So we're excited.
And I'm going to stop right here because you have a book out. You are an author. And
I did do my book too. Yes.
Yeah, we want to hear about this. Your book's called Therapeutic Release.
Yes, Therapeutic Release. It is this is the one of 3. This is volume 1 I released back in May. Volume 2 would be out about around October. I'm trying to put a cover and the design and stuff together for that now. I have all this to go into it. I just have to put it together. Like I said, I gotta finish this event first. So, but yeah, it took me a minute to put everything and all my thoughts together. I know you and I had talked about doing a podcast, but this made it a little bit easier for me to start on this journey, on this process. I had to get my thoughts out on paper, and it ended up turning into a series of books. And then that book became a textbook to add it to my programs for our nonprofit. So we'll see how that works out.
Yeah. So tell us just a little bit. Give us a teaser about the book and tell us where people can find it.
So you can go to Amazon.com. Again, it's self-published. So it's not hard to find. When you go type in the word therapeutic release in the search box and then search under books, it's like the third thing that comes up. Because you just type in therapeutic release, you're going to get all kinds of stuff like massage balls and oils and all kinds of stuff. But you got to type the subtext under books. And it's like the third one that comes up. But it's a book of poetry, similar to what we talk about now. It is pretty much a lot of different stuff that was on my mind. Deals with like domestic violence and the world that we live in. Just put into a poetic form.
Nice. Well, that's superb, and I'm very happy for you. Excellent work there.
Thank you.
And hope everybody checks that out. Next, we're going to move on to Coach Tolliver. You find him at Coach Tolliver 26. Coach, how are things going?
Everything is going. If it hasn't been training, it's been working these COVID orders from a state. We're getting ready to demob now, which means that our jobs are done. Hopefully, people are still getting vaccinated and taking care of themselves. Of course, we're all seeing these bumps in numbers. But other than that, just doing this military thing, always on the go. Got a couple months just to chill out and prepare for the next objective. But other than that, everything's going pretty well.
That sounds good because, I mean, a lot of us talk about being busy, like we got a lot of stuff to do. But, man, I just have a feeling that most of us we don't probably do half of what you do, and we just feel like we just can't keep up with what we're doing.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. We had a training event over in California. Everybody knows about California. It really sucks. And so while out in the desert, I had the opportunity to think about my life decisions, and pretty much came up with that I suck at this thing. So, no, it's been fun. The training's been great. I'm always amazed by the young soldiers, and of course by the ones who've done their time, always there, willing, never complaining. And if they do, nobody listens because we all out there anyway. But I'm just amazed at our young people that's in the military. Very phenomenal young guys and ladies. So you guys hear me say guys. That's how we generally talk about everybody. So yeah, females and males, they're just amazing. Very amazing young people.
Yeah. Well, it's great to have you here once again, Coach. And last but not least is Jeff, my brother, as everybody knows. Jeff, how are things going?
They're going, Rod. You know, I mentioned as we were warming up that it's still only Tuesday and it feels like it's been a week already.
Yeah, I had to look at the calendar twice. I'm like, Tuesday, really? You kidding?
Yeah.
Some weeks are like that, guys. It's just how it is.
But I'm pleased to be back with this distinguished group of fine gentlemen.
Yeah, so let's dive right in, guys. So I actually have the date. The last time we talked was September the 10th of 2020. So yeah, it's been right at 10 months. I kind of struggle with this, guys, because I'm thinking, well, what's changed since then? Well, to try to think about what's changed with racism, have things changed or whatever? I mean, that's still a relatively short period of time to expect any major changes. So I thought the way we would look at this is to look at events that have happened since we last talked, and I really just, rather than look at statistics and things like that, because I didn't pull any statistics, guys. I don't know if any of you did, but I just really wanted to get everybody's impressions and feelings about where things are going and things of that nature. So I've got a few things written down that have happened since we last talked, and I just kind of thought we'd go around and talk, about what we thought of these things, and what impact we think these have on where the country's headed, as far as how everybody gets along. Okay. The first thing I wrote down was and these aren't in any order. Okay. I didn't go back and look at dates or anything like that. So the first one I wrote down was the sentencing of Derek Chauvin. Okay. This was an event that could have caused major turmoil in this country. It could have led to riots and a lot of things if it didn't go right. But he was sentenced to 22 and a half years. So I want to just kind of go around and I want you guys to give me your thoughts on this, and I'll just leave it at that. So we'll just start with the order I introduced you guys in. So Slim, I'm going to let you go first.
Okay. Yeah. It was a mixture of feelings when it happened. Honestly, and a lot of African Americans thought the same way. We didn't think it was going to be guilty across the board. I really didn't think it was going to be guilty across the board like that. And when it happened, I broke down and cried. I sobbed, uncontrollably, because that has never happened to an officer before to get sentenced, even though I think the sentence should have been greater. 22 years is a start. I mean, you have to crawl before you can walk. It's a start, but it lets me know. Well, hopefully we'll see with the other, right when that happened, we had the other killing of the young man in Minneapolis. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes as well. But with Chauvin, it was a start. That man, he murdered George Floyd. And I just wish, it would have been more years, but I will take the 22. I'll take the 22 and a half. But it is a step in the right direction. I just hope that it continues, and we have to keep fighting. Can never sit back on our haunches after this and say, "Oh, things are great again," because there's still a ways to go.
Yeah. So, Dwayne, I'll let you weigh in on your feelings and thoughts.
Okay. So, I guess it kind of mixed emotions. It wasn't just for people of color, because I talked to a lot of my coworkers, just in general. A lot of people, again, I work for the VA. So a lot of people that I talked to, when the verdict came across, they just talking on the phone. It was like just in general, like veterans, like just in general, like they felt the same way. They kind of just broke down in tears, sobbed, like, because they felt like we got one win out of however many losses. It's kind of like, to put a lighter note on the subject. It's kind of like when the Browns beat the Steelers twice last year. We got one win out of like 50 losses, but that one win felt like super great. You still got a long way to go.
Yeah.
There's not, that one win is not going to take over, decades of, constant abuse and loss and, overnight.
Yeah. Well, I think that's something we talked about, on the previous podcast. Is no one event or one person or anything's gonna fix everything all at once. So you're looking for steps like this, to
right.
get things moving in the right direction, and hopefully, I don't know if you call it momentum or not, but hopefully get things going the way they should be going. Make things right. So. So, Coach, we'll let you weigh in on this.
I think I'm just like Slim on that a bit, but I look at things a little bit deeper than what I'm supposed to at times. So there was a song that was created by, I believe it was Billie Holiday, called Strange Fruit, that she came out in the 1920s with. And that was, the strange fruit was a black man being hung in a tree. And then in the 60s and the 70s, I believe Marvin Gaye came out with a song talking about police brutality. And then you come out, now people are still saying the same exact thing. So you have something that's been going on since the inception of this country. Folks been saying that this here has been going on forever. And the only reason why people are getting caught is because we have these great devices called cell phones. So when you look at it from my perspective, just like the brothers just were saying, this one victory out of countless amounts of men, women, people getting assaulted and getting hung. I mean, 2010 in Mississippi, there was a guy that was hung. They said he killed himself, but his hands were tied behind his back. So, of course, I want to look at the good, that, yeah, he's been punished. But what about the others? And then when I'm constantly seeing people, especially on Twitter, he should have complied. He should have did this. He should have did that. I wish people would learn empathy. What would you say if it was your child? What would you do if you saw your child on the ground with a knee in his neck, begging for his mother? Instead of thinking that this is someone's child, he was just a criminal. That's that's the thing that I have a problem with, and I hate to go off into the other one because I was almost in tears when I saw a young lieutenant who got pulled over while in uniform, being treated the way he was. He was in uniform, clean shave. Now, granted, he was at Fort Lee. He's probably a logistic officer, which is not a bad thing. Which is definitely not a bad thing because we all sign up for the same thing, to defend this country. We are in this thing because we actually love this place. And to see how he was treated like he was nothing while wearing a uniform. And that's been the biggest problem that I've been having as a man.
Yeah.
I had a kid ask me, and this has always been tough, but it just hit a little harder when he asked me, like, how in the world can you fight for a country that does not care for you? And I didn't have
a whole lot.
I couldn't say anything because the way I was brought into this thing, every last one of the men in my family served. Every last one, except for maybe 2. They were smart. And they always believed that, hey, because I'm here, I'm paving the way for you. And like I said, it's a tale of 2 Americas. It's the one that we want to talk about, that we all want to revere and say that it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. And it's the other one that nobody wants to talk about. That's why I commend you, Rob, for doing this. That's all I got on that one.
Okay. Thanks, Coach. I was going to go back to the Billie Holiday song that you mentioned. I mean, that was 100 years ago. I think I saw on TV probably a special that I was watching that was talking about, the history of, some songs in that vein. And I'm sure that song was pretty much banned, that she wasn't even allowed to sing that song most places. So I don't know about what happened with Marvin Gaye's song in the 60s. But, right around that period of time, I don't know. But I know that was the case with her song. Okay, Jeff. Jeff, I'll let you weigh in on this, and then I'm going to get back to something that Coach said after that.
Sure. There's not a lot I can add to what these guys already said. It's hard to see these kinds of things as victories. I think there's some, I don't know what the right word is, vindication felt in the community that, someone is being held accountable. But I don't think that the sentence can ever equal the hurt that's felt, no matter what the crime is that's committed. I just wonder if these types of things move us forward, or do they really still act as things that divide us? The way they're covered, the conversations around them, and the expectations, are we moving past police brutality with this kind of a verdict? Or is it just causing people to really dig their heels in even more? And I'm sure there's, some strong feelings on both sides of that.
Yeah, guys, I'm going to moderate primarily here, but for me, I'm not really going to go into my feelings, but for me, that the verdict and the sentencing was almost like a stop the bleeding thing in this case. It really, like you said, Jeff, it doesn't fix anything that happened, but it kept things from getting worse if the verdict, if he was, if he was found innocent or sentenced to 18 months or something like this. It was a verdict that and sentencing that people at least felt like they could live with. I think for the most part. I'm speaking for myself and what I'm assuming. I don't know if everybody felt that way or not, but that's kind of the way I saw it. It was like, well, at least this happened to where people are going to feel like there was, it's not justice, but it's like at least we can kind of say we probably got the best out of this that we could hope to get. And maybe, just maybe, something positive will come out of that part of it in the future. So I want to go back to what Coach was talking about when he was asked, does your country care for you? And I understand. I understand how that could be difficult for you to answer. But I want to know how you guys all look at that. Because there's obviously people that do care and people that respect, and I'm talking right now. I'm talking about servicemen and women. Okay, people that respect and love and really appreciate what you're doing. And then there's these other people. Okay, and the things in the country that aren't happening, or happening that shouldn't be happening. So how do you reconcile those, like you said, Coach, two different parts of the country when you're deciding whether the country cares for you, because you're trying to lump two things together? So, Coach, I'll let you go first, and then we'll let the other guys weigh in on it. I know it's probably a tough thing to.
My grandma told me that Black people, we are schizophrenic. We have two personalities. We have one that believes in the future of what things could possibly be. And then you have another that sees things for what they are. So we're always hopeful. We're always under the belief that, yes, this here is going to matter. What I'm doing is going to matter for the next generation. So I see what my dad was trying to explain to me, because I asked him the same thing. I think this was around 92, 93 when the movie X came out. And when, brothers then were kneeling, sitting down, not kneeling, but sitting down for the flag. And it was amazing because when Colin Kaepernick, when he started kneeling, somebody asked me, well, why do you still stand? Of course, the answer is I'm in the Army, right? I can't kneel. But I told that kid that the reason why I stand is because regardless of how I may feel, there is some 17, 18-year-old kid that's in a different country that's getting ready to be called on to do the impossible. He's going to get ready to change his life by either getting killed or doing the killing. So I respect that kid.
Yeah.
So I have this thing in my head where I do believe that if I work my butt off, that when it's time for my kids to make their names, that I at least kind of did something to make it just a little bit easy. I mean, that's really the crux of our whole lives. we want to make sure our kids have a little bit better than what we had.
Yeah.
You know, and so for me, I it's a battle, but I know why I'm here. I know what I have to do. Have I had times while being in the uniform that I have had racist encounters? Absolutely. Absolutely. More than one. Matter of fact, I'm dealing with one right now, going back and forth in my head because I know what I can do. But just the idea that, you have that young man just ask you and, you know the answer and, you give it all up, go to work every day, PT your butt off. And then you see a guy, get done the way that young lieutenant was done. That was tough for me. And that's really been bothering the hell out of me. Like, my dad, he had a situation where he returned from Vietnam and the guy that he served with, he saved his life. When they got back in, 1970, 71, the guy didn't even know him. Told him to get his food in the back. So, it's a lot of pain, with that for me at this, right now. But I know what I have to do. I know what must be done. And I know that, the soldiers that I have, the ones that actually went to D.C. for the BLM, for the riot control for that, I had to talk with them young soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
And that was tough because it was like, sir, I don't know what to think. I don't know what to believe. And then, of course, me being in leadership, soldier is tough, but we have a mission and we have to complete that mission.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, that's probably like the hardest part is you see all this stuff going on, and then January 6th, and you see all that anger, people just doing our capital that way. The thing, you probably have relatives that fought in World War II. The last war that we had that actually we fought for the Constitution because it was endangering. The last war that everybody put in blood, sweat, and tears, from the workers in the factories to the women working, creating bullets, selling bonds. And for those people to go to that Capitol and disrespect it was, I got a lot on my head. I'm sorry, I can talk about this all day.
Okay.
Just the amount of disrespect, man. Just the amount of disrespect. But a lot of my guys, and myself included, we know what we're here for. We suck it up, we drive on. That's what we do. African Americans are forgiving people. That's, so to our peril at times. But I must say that when it comes down to, of course, the Bible and when it comes down to hearing the song, the Black National Anthem, which is everybody knows the song. And that's all about the promised land, the same promised land that Martin Luther King talked about. Us being in a free country, being in a free society. Yeah. So I'm sorry for being long-winded.
No, that's
all right,
that's
Coach.
cool. Just to expound on that, lift every voice and sing. If you look at it, it's not just the Black National Anthem. It's lift every voice in America, all together, black, white, brown, yellow, purple. Lift every voice. Like you said, the promised land where we're all one people. And me personally, I'm not a soldier, and I thank you, Coach and Dwayne. I think you served. And
yes, sir.
Yes, thank you. And not sure, Rod and Jeff, if you guys have served at all.
No.
I can I can never know what you guys have gone, what you guys go through, serving this country that you guys love, that I love, just like James Baldwin said, I love America more than any other country on this planet. Therefore, it should be my privilege and my right to criticize her when things are bad, you know. And the closest that I can even get to where what you guys are going through, what you're talking about, is watching my father as a cop being hired in 1963 at 22 years of age. His first assignment, they assigned him to guard the Ku Klux Klansmen at a KKK rally in Akron. God is my witness. That was one of his first assignments.
Oh, cow.
Yeah, one of his first assignments. And I have a, great uncle, Dr. Bill Bell, rest in peace. He was a Tuskegee Airman. I'm sure when he got back, along with other black soldiers, they didn't get the respect as well. I will never know. And I commend you guys, for what you guys have gone through and are going through, because I'll never know that aspect. And therefore, you have, my sincere gratitude, and I thank y'all for fighting for our country, and representing when sometimes it's hard and you have to ask, why are you doing this?
Yeah, Dwayne, would you like to weigh in on this?
Absolutely. So, I'm going to give you two different stories. Okay. So the first one is why I originally served. I originally went in because of my family history. My grandfather, I'll tell anybody who actually knows, my grandfather is my superhero. Okay. He did 10 years in the Army, 10 years in the Air Force, got out. It did 20 years with the FAA, and then had been doing volunteer work at the VA hospital until he couldn't work anymore. All right. So that man has, like I said, he dedicated his life to service. Okay. That's the reason why I originally went in to serve. Not for this country, not for the benefits of going to school and all the other stuff like that. I served because my father was a Marine, my grandfather served, both my parents served, my brother served, my family history. Okay, like Coach said, like almost every man in his family served. That's pretty much how my family is. So that's the reason why I originally served. Now, once I got in, and I learned stuff and learned how stuff actually worked and became political and all that stuff like that, I was like, nah, this is why I got in trouble. Because I speak my mind a little bit too much at times. And I was told once, I never forget this. He said the day that I started asking questions, it was the day I stopped being a soldier. Because soldiers are trained to do as they're told, do as they're told, do as they're goddamn told. And that's pretty much the truth. So here's the second story. We were in Iraq, and we were in the NWR tent, and they asked the question about what's your favorite movie, and I told them we were soldiers, and I underlined the word "word" like 20 times. So they found out that we had wrote it, and they made our platoon write. Everybody had to write an essay of what it means to be a soldier. I was like, "Are you sure you really want the answer to that question?" And they were like, "Yeah, we really want to know what your thoughts of being a soldier, what it means to be a soldier to you." So pretty much it wasn't just my thought. And again, it's not about black or white. Everybody generally now feels the same way. That once you raise your right hand, that's the day you no longer become a person. As the day you no longer become human. It's the day you sold your rights to the government. You have to do as you're told. You do what they say, when they say, how they say, and no matter what the color of your skin is. That's the reason why, like Coach said, when the lieutenant was pulled over at the airport in his uniform, and they treated him like he was leftover trash because they didn't see the uniform. That part didn't matter. All I seen was the color of his skin. That's the part that people don't understand. Most people get mad. Well, he's a soldier. You should treat him with respect. All they saw was the color of his skin. It didn't matter what his rank was in the military. No matter that he served the country, he could be getting ready to retire and serve like my grandfather and my brother and all them did. That didn't matter. All they saw was the color of his skin, and it treated him like any other person.
Yeah. Jeff, would you like to weigh in on this, or would you like to kick off the next segment?
I just want to add real quick, Rod, that you and I didn't serve. Our dad was in the Guard. Our family history is filled with people who served this country, going all the way back to the Revolutionary War. I think service to this country is vastly overlooked by the majority of people today. It's devalued in terms of how important it is to learn sacrifice and to be able to contribute to the greater good. I think that's the piece that we're missing today. We've become such a selfish country. We're so driven by our own ambitions and our greed that we lose sight of the greater good, which is really, what this country was founded on, certain principles of opportunity for everybody. And what's holding us back, I forget who mentioned it earlier, is our ability to be empathetic toward our fellow citizens. And, everything that we talk about regarding race relations is today is being driven by the fact that we can't empathize with how other people think or how other people view things. And we're just sort of digging our heels in to our own beliefs, and we're getting them constantly reinforced by whatever media is serving us, our own beliefs on a platter. So, World War II was really the last time we all had to sort of dig down and sacrifice for the common good. I think that's a really good point. We've all forgotten what that means, what it means to do that. COVID was a great opportunity for all of us to learn that lesson again and find ways to contribute to a better society. But what we've seen is polarization, people digging their heels in according to their beliefs, and we're not able to accomplish a single goal like defeating a common enemy because we can't get past our own personal interests. And that's really what I think is perpetuating all the issues that we have with race relations in this country.
Yeah. Let's you mentioned COVID, so let's just move on to that as the next topic. And I think I'm going to actually kind of let Coach steer this one because he's kind of an in-house expert on this topic. We've seen a lot of things happen with COVID over the last 10 months. Obviously, since we talked last, spikes and masks and no masks and vaccines and people not wanting to wear masks and people arguing about whether it's their right to do different things and and all that. So I guess and I guess I just wanted to kind of bring that up as a major occurrence in the past, over the past year or so. I think probably the main factor there in our discussion is that, Coach, I don't know what stats or things off the top of your head, but everything I've heard is that African Americans are a lot less likely to get vaccinated than pretty much everybody else. The only stats I found were that Asian or Asian Americans are most likely, and then I think it drops down to whites, and then to Hispanics, and then to African Americans. So I'm going to turn it over to you and get kind of your thoughts on that, and what it has to do with everything that we're talking about.
Yeah. So within our state, the state that I'm in, actually, the African American population has done extremely well. They were pretty much the first ones to go ahead and get the vaccinations, and we're listening to CDC guidance on wearing the mask. I really can't give you the numbers because, of course, with the variant that has come out is pretty much crashing in on the party. So me looking at it, so in my state, we are demobbing. So the National Guard is completely done with the COVID mission for my state. I'm praying that people, took advantage of getting the shots for my state. Of course, with all this disinformation, I think we're about to see some serious, upticks in the sickness. I have never seen anything, like this when it comes down to the news and the media. I'm very disappointed in certain key leaders because even though we are, disproportionately affected, I think at the end of the day, when Jody sees his grandma is really sick and dies, that's really going to be the indicator that this thing is a lot more serious than what they anticipated. So just like, your brother just said too, and just like I said earlier about empathy, Americans only care when something affects them personally.
Coach, I'm sorry. I just can't imagine there are that many people left that don't know somebody or of somebody who's really had a tough go of it with COVID yet already, Well,
I had one of my good friends. He was 4,956 that died of COVID. He was like a father figure to me. And he passed away. And then I had numerous other guys that passed away. I mean, just like you said, you would think that it has hit a lot of us. We have known at least one person that has gotten COVID that may have passed away or had a hell of a battle.
Mm-hmm.
But for people to sit back and really think that this thing, it's just nothing but the flu. They really need to go to these doctors and ask them. I mean, a doctor's not going to lie. What does he got to lie about? I mean, you think about it, if it was, about economics or making money, he's getting more patients. He's getting paid.
Right. Don't get the shot. Yeah. We'll see you later.
Yeah, we'll see you in a couple of weeks. You'll be dead on the ventilator. So I just don't understand. And then, this is that Fox patriotism. Like, it's my right to do this. Give me liberty or give me death. You don't take away my right to not wear a mask. Okay, that's why now schools are going to start late. That's why you're not going to be able to go to a football game at full capacity and cheer on your team. I mean, I don't know what it's going to take. I really don't. And like I said, when it comes to the African American population, yes, we are disproportionately affected. It's in a large part due to living conditions. Where I was working, some of the areas where I would go in the Delta, didn't have no access to health care. But COVID is just one thing. We have diabetes, high cholesterol, high blood pressure. We have a lot of things going against us, and it's all because of not having affordable health care. Anytime that you live in a state that I, serve, you're talking about people making $12,000 a year. It's way below poverty. Are they really going to be able to go to the doctor and afford the medical care that they can receive, to deal with their diabetes? So, that's a totally different monster right there. That just comes down to, these politicians getting off their butts and doing their job, making sure that each life is just as important as the guy that's making $1 million a year.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So, Slim, I'm going to let you weigh in on this because you're affected pretty much every day you work by what's going on with COVID.
Yeah, it's a little different for me. I really see the people being non-empathetic towards each other, especially when you're in a tube of 200 people flying at about 500 miles an hour, 5 miles in the sky. It's been crazy. I just, as we discussed before, it's just been crazy. I don't know what people are thinking. It's really Americans are pretty much out of, I fly internationally, so I see flying within the continental U.S. we have the most problems with passengers on our aircraft with mass compliance. It also starts from our captains. There's some that do the guidelines. We have to read. They have to read something stating that there's a federal mask mandate. You must comply with the flight attendant's request. You must wear your mask over your nose and mouth, and only put it down when you take a drink and getting something to eat briefly. It even starts there with some of the cockpit. We have some captains that turn around and, of course, don't believe in the COVID. And they'll go, I've had some go, hey, flight attendants, you're on your own. Basically, if you have problems, I don't want to have to write a report. We have some that come on. I'm tired of these dang masks, and it's our job. That's what we're supposed to do. It's a federal mandate, and it starts there. There's not just the passengers. Sometimes we have crew members that have no empathy for the situation, and it's been a tough summer. Me personally, I've had to write up 2 people to where they got banned from flying on American ever again for noncompliance. Just blatant. I'll give people benefit of the doubt, but in one case I had a person that just blatantly didn't want to wear it. Walked to the back of the cabin. He turned around and saw me looking at him. He checked to see if I was watching. Pulled it back down. I walked up to him, gave him the warning, and he had cut a slit in his mask, and then turned around and yelled at me, "I can't breathe." I'm like, I wear this dang thing 12 to 16 hours when I'm on the job, not taking it off. So if I can wear it and breathe, you can do that as well. And we've heard it all. And I hope, me personally, I hope it doesn't get to a point where it gets physical. But there've been, just the other day, fight with a flight attendant. Southwest flight attendant got her teeth knocked out. by a passenger. I just don't understand. I don't understand where people think they have such a right to where they put their hands on a crew member that's only trying to do their job. It's been amazing. Yeah, it's been amazing. And my fear is that with this Delta virus happening, I'm not sure if the mask mandate, they're going to drop it on September 13th. They're supposed to review it again and possibly drop it on September 13th. But with the way it's building back up again in the United States, I got a feeling they're gonna probably put it off a little bit, and still gonna have to deal with this stuff maybe for a little bit longer. I took the vaccine not only to protect myself but to protect others, other passengers, to protect my family. I travel to other countries like South America; they have it full blown. Europe, Asia. I go to these places and I come back home. And there was no question when they were starting to give out the vaccines. I told my wife, there's no question that I'm going to take it because I have a daughter here that's special needs, has a compromised immune system. I have a wife that is over 60 that has minor health issues. I didn't want to take that risk of bringing something back from overseas and having to live with myself if they've gotten sick and passed away. And I've had relatives that have passed away. I've had dear friends that have passed away from this COVID. It's no joke. And it's just hard for me to understand how some people don't take this virus seriously.
Yeah, I understand completely. So, Dwayne, I want to give you a shot at that, but I want to add something to this.
Okay.
Is there any chance that the effects from COVID, the shutdowns, people being in isolation, people wearing masks when they go out, people quarantining, is there any chance that this would have any effect on people's prejudices going forward?
It may. That's a very, very interesting spin you put on that there. So it may. So I was talking to one of my younger brothers. He is a teacher, professor. I can call him professor. He teaches dance up in Maine. I forget the name of his college, but because he is a mixed person. I guess he gets and he's from Minnesota. He gets the blunt of both parts of racism. He's too black for this issue, but he's too white for this issue because he's not the typical just like a fair skinned person. Like he looks white, but you can tell that he has black features and stuff in him. So he has taken a shot because again the way he travels and stuff like that for his job, and he's constantly around different people and stuff like that. He has to be up close and personal. Like you said, he has to take the shot. Is a little difficult for him at times. So I was joking with him at first. I was like, but it kind of bugged me a little bit because he has more gray hair than I do. I like, this is my younger brother. I was like, why you got all this gray hair? Why are you so stressed out? He's like, man, this life and the world that I'm living in. And we sat down and had a really long conversation about everything, from the different stuff that he had been through or stuff that he had been going through, like this past, year and a half. What I said with the racism, because again, he was in Minnesota. with George Floyd and all the stuff that was going on up there, and how people would put different stuff on store walls and all that stuff like that. Then he lives and works in Maine. Again, it's not the most cultural friendly place to be.
Mhm.
So it's like, so he's getting the blunt of both things, but he has to work. He has to do what he has to do. So it does play a part, and it's on the one hand, like you said, because we've all been locked up, so to speak, in the insane asylum, due to this pandemic.
Yeah.
So you would think that we would all feel this same, as you guys said earlier, empathy for each other, or just in general. Hey, we should try to get through this together. We should, everybody should, make sure you take, extra vitamins, make sure you wear your mask, make sure you do this. But no, I don't see it actually going that route. Like you just said, you see people constantly fighting and arguing more now because they want to be defiant. So,
Mhm. So Jeff,
Hey, Mr. Rod, I do need to say something real quick. So I saw on Twitter a couple days ago about some congressmen saying that there were some soldiers that leadership officers or something that were talking about getting out the army if they were told to get vaccinated, that it was going to be like a forced vaccination. I just want to let your listeners understand that the Army's primary mission is to win our nation's battles, which means readiness. So if it's a officer, anybody that's in the leadership that's saying that they want to get out because of vaccinations, they must be on their way out early anyway. Because if you've been in the Army or any military branch, you've already taken about 30,000 different types of vaccines.
the facts. Facts.
It's just part of it, right?
I mean, it's a part of the game. I mean, no telling. I probably took a shot where I made me lose hair. I don't know.
We joked about I survived anthrax, smallpox. I got every shot in it, but I'll be all right. I'll be all right.
You remember the old cattle lines? Remember the cattle lines? You get in that cattle line, you getting shot up. So you got your, when you get into basic training, you got your PHAs every year where you got to get your shots. Then if you deploy, you got your shots. Then your pre-deployment shots. You get all your post-deployment shots. So that's the least of somebody's word. That's a political thing. Our job is readiness. We're here to win our nation's battles. If somehow that would affect our readiness, you better believe we'll be the first to get it. And if that officer is worth any grain of salt, he will be the first to take it.
You mean they don't give you a little card where you get to check off which shots you want to get?
Oh, no. You're like, hey, keep your ass moving. That's how it pretty much goes.
Yeah. So Jeff, want to get you on the on COVID. I know you've been impacted by it. I wanted to kind of go back to what I was talking to Dwayne about, and maybe not maybe not so much the racism part of it or prejudices, but just wondered if if you've seen a change in people during this period, and if so, what kind of change have you seen in people, your friends or anybody people that you interact with?
Yeah, I run in a completely different circle. I've mentioned in the past that the people I'm generally around every day, most of them don't even acknowledge that racism exists in this country. They just want it to go away. They want it to disappear. They want to not be bothered by it anymore. It's a community problem that they don't have a solution to, and so they'd rather just turn a blind eye to it. I think what COVID did is it sort of cemented this idea that if we just think a certain way, we can talk ourselves into anything. And this what Coach mentioned about false patriotism. I think this is a strategy. I think that a certain segment of leadership has adopted or continues to adopt that really has been around since the 60s of leveraging people's prejudices against each other to gain support and to win power. If I told you that we could win World War II, and all the average citizen had to do was go down to the drugstore and get a free shot, how many people do you think would have refused to do that in the 1940s?
Nobody. I mean, they would have all stood in line, the first day.
People would have been standing in line the first day, and everybody would have been vaccinated within a month. Okay, yeah. But because today we formulate our truths based on what we believe or what we want to believe, we can convince ourselves of anything. And then we go and we listen to people who share those ideas, and those are the only people we interact with, and it further cements those thought processes. For me, what's changed is I call those people out. I call bullshit. I'm in a meeting yesterday, and one of the leaders of my company said, just I'm off the cuff, we're talking about business, and off the cuff, he said, oh, by the way, did everybody see that the NFL is going to start playing the Black Lives Matter national anthem before games? And I looked at him and I said, what the hell? First of all, where the hell did that come from? Why is that pertinent to his business meeting? And why do you think that is an issue? Even if it were a fact, which it's not, because there's no such thing as a Black Lives Matter national anthem. Raise Every Voice and Sing's been around for 100 years, and it's about lifting all people. And the NFL is trying to do the right thing. But I think that's just another case in point of how these things become wedges. By the NFL trying to do the right thing and correct the mistakes that they've made in the past, coming down on kneeling and things that they've done wrong before. Now they're trying to correct that. Well, all that's doing is taking these people who already believe a certain way, and it's just driving them further apart. So what have I seen change as a result of COVID? Well, we've learned how to be by ourselves and still get our work done, and we've done even less communicating, because the communication that I tend to have with people who I work with is strictly focused on business. Yesterday we had an in-person meeting, which is the first time we've done that in a long time. I don't get on social media because it's just so full of crap that I can't possibly stand up to every idiot out there. But when I come across somebody in my real, my day-to-day life in the real world, and they spout off these ridiculous statements that are just propaganda. Let's just call it what it is. It's propaganda that's been used to drive people apart. I just look at them and I say, stop. It's not that hard to Google something and find out about it.
Right.
So learn what facts are and stop just repeating this nonsense. And again, it's a strategy. It's being used to continue to drive a wedge between the American population so that the factions at the extremes can stay in power, and the 75% of us that don't share those opinions have no say in the matter.
Yeah. All right.
Great points.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me go to Dwayne to lead this one off. This is one I was going to give you, Jeff, but I'm going to let somebody else start this. We'll just let you finish it because I think you're going to have a lot to say on it. So, anyways, there was an election last November. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to go all politics, guys, but obviously it was a major change in this country with the change of leadership.
Yeah.
Obviously. So my question is, is really what has the new leadership, what has this changed? Has the new leadership been able, or has simply having new leadership calmed things down and made true progress more possible? Or are the lingering feelings in society from what was there still really the major factor of where we are? Or is it kind of a mix of both? So I'll let you kind of take that where you'd like, Dwayne.
Okay. So there's this I don't know if it's a TikTok video or Instagram post, whatever it goes around. I'm not on TikTok, but it's a thing that says, what is something that if you say out loud, most people won't agree with you? So I'm gonna say something out loud. A lot of people may not agree with me. The current administration, okay, is how can I put this politically correctly? Couple things. There's a couple different parts to this administration. One, it is very diverse. We'll start there. That is a major change that has not been done in a very long time, and it is very diverse. You have a female vice president. Again, you have something that has been done ever. A person of color has not been done ever. Then he changed the whole cabinet, so you got Asians and Hispanics and transgender people. So you got a whole plethora of people that's completely different, to have different views, different outlooks, different perspectives in this cabinet, which is a wonderful thing. Okay, so that we're gonna scale up, start off positive and say all this stuff is great, because that is how we make change. We start off with the man in the mirror. We start off with ourselves. Okay, how can we affect change first? And he started with saying, hey, I'm gonna start off with me, and the person I pick as my running mate is gonna be somebody different, and then everybody else I put in place is gonna be different and have a different outlook versus the same old thing expecting a different result. That's the first thing. So when he first got in office, everybody cheered, great, yada yada, it was wonderful for the most part. Now that he's been in office, I don't really see so far a lot of good that has been done. So again, this is part I'm gonna say out loud that a lot of people may not agree with. What he has done to try to calm or unite the country is throwing money at the problem. It's supposed to be ready to come with a fourth stimulus package or another text, another text to come out. You're just constantly throwing money at the problem. But yet, more and more businesses are failing. They got all these PPP loans, and people had to get in trouble with all these PPP loans and all this stuff like that. And they're still trying to figure out this debt forgiveness with these student loans. But like I said, people are still out of jobs. People are still not getting, like I said, Coach said earlier, not getting the proper health care and stuff like that. I know, again, it takes time, and it's a process. But just constantly just throwing money at the situation is, like I said, just throwing a Band-Aid on a Hoover Dam and has a leak in it. That's really not helping.
Hey, Dwayne,
Yeah.
could I just interject something real quick?
Sure.
Leaders are like offensive linemen. When they're doing their job, you don't hear much about them.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
You can agree or disagree with policy in terms of, is the economy overstimulated? Is it understimulated? Are we, what are we doing right and wrong from a policy standpoint? That's not leadership. That's just people's positions on things. Okay. But true leaders work behind the scenes and they use people to the best of their abilities. They surround themselves with capable people,
Mm-hmm.
and they let those people do their jobs. And I think what we've seen since the election is a 180-degree shift in that. From an administration that was very much top down to an administration that is very spread out in terms of responsibility. Everybody gets to do their own job. Would you agree with that?
I agree with that part. I didn't dispute that part at all. That he's not working. Again, I haven't seen a major change as of yet. What I've seen so far is, hey, let's throw out this package. Let's throw out another stimulus package. Let's keep throwing money in the situation.
Okay, guys. Dwayne, when you say you haven't seen a major change, what type of change are you talking about?
Okay, so prime example of say Juneteenth, right? Everybody was so up in arms. Oh yeah, we get another federal holiday. But why? Like June 19th, again, I'm gonna say something that's against popular belief. June 19th, again, this is my own personal opinion, is a fraud. It is a sham. It should not be a national holiday. Again, here is why. June 19th is the day that the slaves were freed. What, 2-3 years later after they were freed? That shouldn't be a holiday. That shouldn't be celebrated when the fact that slaves had been freed already. That's the first issue. Second issue is when it was a bunch of issues with the Asian hate because of the former administration kept saying it was the China flu, and all the Asian hate and type of Asian hate, all that stuff like that. They got laws to protect them. There's 15 bills that went across the office to try to help other people of color that kept getting denied. That's what I mean. Make real changes, not just keep doing stuff on the. But again, that's maybe me arguing with different policies and procedures of how stuff is being done or not done.
Okay. Well, guys,
I think he.
Go ahead,
I'm
Jeff.
sorry. This is Slim. I think he has a tough go. I think he really has a tough go, especially as far as how this country was so divided over these last 4 years. He's not only fighting against, or I shouldn't even say fighting, he's trying to deal not only with the Republican Party, but also with the party of 4-5, the man who shall not be named. He has to deal with that aspect as well, which is, to me, is a tough go. It's a slow process. And I think you may see, you talked about this stimulus, Dwayne. I think you will start to see progress once September rolls around and the stimulus is gone. Where, like right now in the airports in Dallas, for example, A lot of the businesses are closing early because there's no employees there. There's no employees there because they're still receiving the stimulus package, which is better than the possible jobs that are out there. I think once that runs out, you may see a little bit of a change in the economy. I'm not going to say it's going to be a great change, but you'll see a little bit of a change. But it's going to be a slow process, and I'm going to wait till 2022 when the midterms happen and see how America stands on that aspect. Is there still such a huge stand with Trump that we'll see in those polls in the midterm, or has there been a little bit of a change in thought process and in how Americans think over these last 2 years? So for me personally, it's a wait and see game, and I think the economy has gotten better. There are jobs out there. There's jobs out there. It's just that right now nobody's taking them. Yeah, nobody's taking them.
Right.
Nobody's taking some of these jobs.
And that's been my surveillance of an understanding of. Like I said, it's a ton of jobs, and people they definitely need help. And like I said, you can go to stores now, and it'd be like I said, still one cash register, and the lines be long. So it's not like people aren't shopping. It's not like people aren't trying to get stuff done. But like I said, because we had this debate a couple of weeks ago, a few friends of mine, we were sitting there, we were like, if I pay you $300 a week to stay on unemployment and do nothing, why would you go back to work? A lot of people are still apprehensive on, like I said, on taking this COVID shot, or having to wear a mask all day, or this, that, and the other, like I said, and they're not going back to work, or they haven't been back to work because the plants or places that they used to work at have closed down because they were talking about raising the minimum wage and all the stuff like that. A lot has been playing on this last year and a half.
Yeah, a few things, guys. First of all, I think we all know the economy takes time. Okay, the economy, you do things now for the economy. They don't take effect right away. Okay, there's a lag for the economy to actually get going. So what Slim is saying is correct in looking into 22 and talking about the stimulus, people or the unemployment and so forth. I don't know how it is where you guys live, but where I live, and I live in, I listened to part 2 of our show today, so I could kind of remember some of the stuff we talked about on the last one, So I live in Kirk Herbstreit's hometown, okay, which we got a good laugh over last time. There are some restaurants here that were very popular restaurants that struggled a bit during COVID, because you couldn't do the dine-in. They did some delivery and stuff, and since then, they can't get their staff up, and they're literally advertising for jobs. Sure, they're hiring servers, they're hiring bus boys and things like that. They're hiring cooks. They're hiring cooks starting at like 35, 40 grand, and they're hiring managers and stuff. So these aren't all $300 an hour or $300 a week jobs.
Right.
They can't get people, so they have gone to, they have gone to where they are only open a few days a week, and it's a good restaurant. People want to go eat there, and they can't because they don't have the staff to support it. I mean, I hope it turns around because everybody wants to, support these places. But, I don't know. I really don't have a solution right now for the workforce issue, until September gets here and people want to work again.
Hey, Rod.
got
Go ahead,
to
Jeff.
create a work study.
Let me
High
just
school
interject real
degree.
quick on that.
Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
Amazon is paying $18 to $20 an hour with benefits. Do you know what's happened to Amazon since shutdown? I mean, Jeff Bezos has made so freaking much money that
Yeah.
he can afford to launch himself into the air as high as he can go.
Well, yeah, everybody's shopping at home. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Great.
So in your town, I'm sure you
I think
have,
we got a Christmas card from our driver.
Yeah, you probably have multiple Amazon warehouses throughout your town. Okay, and you order something today, you get it tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Those jobs that you're talking about are competing for employees with Amazon and with other places whose business over the last 18 months has been through the roof. I spent a good portion of my day today listening to manufacturers talk about how they can't get enough product into the US right now because of delays with ports, delays with transportation. It's not that, there aren't employees to make stuff. It's that no business can forecast for a 45% increase year over year. You just can't,
Right.
you can't ramp up a business that fast, not when it's in a mature industry. So
Yeah.
this fallacy that the only thing keeping people from going back to work is the $300 a week unemployment supplement is a little too convenient. And if you really drill down into what's happened in the job market in the US, there are a lot more things factoring into it than that. Think about what's happened with students. When you and I were kids, we went to school, we got a job. Okay. We worked through high school, we worked through college. Okay.
Yeah.
Today, kids don't work.
At all.
Most of them don't, anyway. Those jobs at the fast food restaurants and the jobs as servers and so forth, those were typically kids putting themselves through school. Okay. Today, that workforce has shrunk dramatically. These kids are putting together six-figure student loan debts, and when they graduate, they can't afford to go to work for $15 an hour.
Yeah.
They just won't take the job. Okay, so we've seen dramatic shifts in how our economy works, and we haven't been able to catch up to it. And particularly since the start of COVID, this is an unprecedented impact on how our supply chains work, and the stimulus has only made that problem worse. The fact that people have extra money to spend on their house. Or to try to pump back into the economy. The thought process is sound, okay, but the reality is it's had a negative impact on our ability to go out to eat, and that's just the way it is. It's not going to change until demand decreases to the point that supply can catch up. That's our economy right now. And most of the manufacturers that I talk to are saying it's going to be sometime in the middle of next year before that happens. So the Fed has to stop pumping money into the economy. We need to stop giving people advances on their tax return from next year. You wouldn't believe people are that this child tax credit. I don't want that money. I want it next year when I use it to go on vacation. That's my son. He's like, I'm going to end up owing taxes next year. I'm going to end up owing money. So,
right. Go ahead, Coach.
Here's the problem is that there's a playbook for liberals and there's a playbook for conservatives.
That's true.
And they keep going back to the same playbooks.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're looking at the. So I bet you $100 to a bucket of poop that are having like issues with filling in labor at those restaurants. I bet you they got rid of work study in the high schools.
Oh yeah.
See, and people don't ever want to talk about that
I
because
don't know if they have work study in Centerville, Ohio.
well, they banned it in Mississippi, and they definitely got rid of it in Tennessee. There goes the issue right there. So that's an education thing where we're constantly telling kids you're not going to make it until you go to college. But guess what? The guy that has the medical degree, he doesn't know how to lay hardwood floors. He doesn't know how to change out or do HVAC work. So I think in that, we have to change the way we view what work is. Everybody is vital in the system. We just got to somehow get on message. Everybody has to get on message. Not everybody's meant to be a NFL football player. The stats already proved that. Not everybody's meant to be an airborne ranger. Hell, the stats show that too.
Yeah.
So I think the messaging has to be consistent coming out of our politicians. In regards to the administration, of course, you guys know I can't really comment on that. But what I can see as a leader is that the leaders are producing the what. And leadership is allowing those other folks to produce the how. So just like Jeff was saying, they have synergy going. Nobody's getting shot down on Twitter. You're seeing ideas come up. You're seeing people actually putting work and grind, to trying to get things done, even though it appears that maybe just one party that's doing a lot of the work and the other one just wants to hang out and point to why the other one is not doing anything. I don't know. As for, policy and all the other good stuff, hey, I support my chain of command. I support the leadership. That's about as far as I can take it on that one, Jits.
No, that's fine, Coach. Thanks for your, I guess what you could say there. So appreciate that. So we kind of drifted a little bit off topic, and I know politics is a big part of this, guys. For my 2 cents, I think the new leadership has come in and kind of done what I think Coach was alluding to a little bit, and that's kind of just steadied the waters. Okay, which is kind of what needed to be done. Beyond that, you just got to see what's going to happen over the rest of the administration's term, and see. But yeah,
that's a good way to put it, Ron. That's a good way to put it. Steady the water. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, it just kind of felt like we had this, locomotive just flying off the tracks, and just we need some, they've gone in there and just kind of put the brake on. So, we'll see. See what happens.
Bringing it back around to race, Rod. Politics is the primary driver of race relations in this country.
Absolutely.
And what we saw in this last election was people saying enough. I think the prior election, people had a number of reasons for voting the way they did. I think the one I hear most commonly is, Washington's full of crooks. We needed somebody to go in there and clean house. Well, the problem is they sent an even bigger crook and a whole host of other crooks. So realistically, we can't separate race in America from politics. That's why we have to discuss both.
Sure.
But the biggest benefit, I think, of this new administration is it's not something that we have to deal with every day. We can have these kinds of conversations
Yeah.
without a lot of raw emotion.
Yeah, so let me take that another step. And I am not comparing the current administration to the last one. I'm more comparing administrations over the last 20 or 30 years. Okay. There is a what do I want to call it? There is a feeling or opinions in this country, and I'll let you guys jump in on this because I've said this myself, depending on who's been in office, that and it's a little different now because I think there are news media that back both parties. Okay. That when you're watching the news, depending on who's in office, one party kind of gets more of a pass than the other. And I'm talking in general, again, not talking comparing, the current guy to the last guy. Okay. What I'm trying to get at is, can we really tell if things have gotten better by following the news, or do you have to look at other things? And again, you got to kind of cut out the last person that was in office if you're going to look at that.
Yeah, I would say don't watch the news.
That's fair. That's fair. I know a lot of people don't watch the news because I don't know that the news is always reliable, depending on who you're watching.
The problem with that is where do you get your information if it's not from a trusted news source? Okay,
Twitter.
It becomes
Twitter.
Social media, right?
Yeah.
And now everybody is basing everything on opinions of other people, and that's even worse.
Well, I know, but how much it comes down to the question of how much of the news you're watching is news versus, given to us with a slanted view. That's kind of the question that you have to answer.
Well,
yourself.
yeah, and
and are you willing to wade through that, or not?
Right. What's happened is we've lost our ability to separate front page news from the op-ed section.
Yeah.
We used to know that when
it's
we
all
went
the
to the
same
grocery
now.
store and saw the National Enquirer or the Globe or whatever, we knew those rags were all just made up shit, right?
Right.
Now we can't tell what is anymore, what is and what isn't. Right. So people have to be smart enough to figure out when they're being played. That's the real issue. I mean, figure out when they're just playing you and trying to get a particular rise from you.
Right.
And if it seems like they're trying to get a rise from you and they are getting a rise from you, then guess what? They're doing their job.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's working. Exactly, Dwayne.
What do you think, Slim?
It's tough. I mean, if you get rid of all media, where are you going to get your information from?
Yeah, you don't know anything.
Yeah, exactly. You don't know anything. So it's interesting because there are still people out there that think, even though the judges have come out and said it, they've done research on it, that the election was still rigged and it's still being pushed. And I mean, where do you go if you can't go to media? I'm not going to say I turn around and have a personal trusted news source. I'll check everything out. I'll check Fox out. I'll check MSNBC. I'll check CNN. And everybody has their one that they kind of go towards. But when do you turn around and when do you catch when they're doing their slant and stuff and kind of draw back from it? or
Wow.
or just fall into it. It's real difficult. It is. It's nowadays
Honestly,
it's
that
really,
what
really
you're saying
tough.
is probably the smartest way to do it, and that's to watch from various sources, and try to get pick the parts out that that kind of agree and from the various sources. So that's probably the smart way to go about it. So another question. All right, and Coach, I'll let you go first on this. This just so happens to coincide with something that I saw on the news, and I want you guys to think about this for a minute. I'm watching the news, and there were 2 or 3 stories in a row on the evening news about African American firsts. Okay, there was an African American girl who won the National Spelling Bee, and then I don't remember what the other 2 were. So my question is, should we be celebrating all of these firsts? Okay, should it be a big deal? And I don't want to make it seem like it's not, but if you're celebrating every time somebody does anything, after a while, does it just become noise? And should it just be, the important things, or I don't know if you're catching my drift at all here.
Yeah,
Is it too much to have 2 or 3 of these on the news every single night, and to where people are gonna just not even notice it anymore? Or is it a good thing to celebrate every single time?
That's a great question, to be quite honest with you. All right, so let me ask Slim this. Slim and Dwayne.
Okay.
When the movie Black Panther came out, what was your thoughts?
I was proud as a peacock
Why?
because it was great to see a movie featuring Black actors as the main characters. It brought in the African culture. It was just a shining moment to me personally in Hollywood, to where after years and years of not having many movies that featured Black love, Black triumph. It was, also the Black struggle as well too, but more so the Black love and triumph. You saw a different side, and so it gave me some sense of pride, uh, uh, and made me proud. Some people say the movie wasn't that great. To me personally, it was a good movie, but for me, it was more about the aesthetic, the aesthetics of the movie.
Okay, the reason why I asked that was because it was so much pride having your own superhero, not somebody, how they're doing Superman now. They're trying to make Superman into a black dude now. No, none of that.
Right.
It was a serious meaning behind that, because if you were to look at it, the movies prior to that, most of the movies that you see us in are us being a drug dealer, committing crimes. Things are changing, though. The past 15 years started changing, with Blade 20 years ago. Before then, it was Menace to Society, Boys in the Hood. Then before then, blacks were featured as pimps, prostitutes, black exploitation movies and stuff.
Right.
So if you are that little kid and all you see is a world where we're constantly the bad guy, we're constantly the other, then that eventually becomes a part of who you perceive yourself to be.
Yes.
Yes. So it was Les Miles. Someone's opinion of you does not have to be your reality. I live by those words. So when I see like a young kid that I have never seen before, a young black girl that became a spelling bee champ, just imagine in 1997 when I graduated, how many spelling bee champs were black. Or, you're constantly being told that you have, or if it was not for, excuse me for saying this, white people, there would not be any history or culture in the world. I've seen that on Twitter numerous times, and I've seen representatives that are in the government that have said that slaves should be thankful for being slaves, for coming to America, or the Native Americans should be thankful that they were conquered by the Europeans, when they first came here. So I can definitely understand why someone would be like, man, that's just too much. But if you were to peel back the layers and you were to actually look at things, some stuff like that is actually a big deal, because guess what? That 14-year-old girl has just given confidence to a 9-year-old kid that's probably from the same city she's from. That kid probably has never been exposed to a spelling bee answer book or something like that until that kid saw that other kid on television. Just like the first guy that ran a sub 4 mile, nobody ever thought it could, be done. Yeah. Now you got over at least 100 people that's doing it in a year. So,
right. Yeah. Right.
So, you have to see things. We all have to see someone. I mean, we all had that one kid that was just the greatest athlete to ever play a game of football that we know firsthand. Laurie Malloy was the greatest athlete I ever seen when I was a little boy growing up. John Kidney too. To see their work ethic at Lincoln High School. And then I get to that same high school and I rip it up. I go to college. They go to college. Sometimes you just got to see it. And though it may seem like it's a bit of overkill, those are things, especially in the African-American community, that we have to see. I mean, because you're talking about folks who cannot say that, hey, my dad fought in the Revolutionary War. We really can't say that, yeah, my folks is from the Sierra Leone. No, we're from Greenwood, Mississippi.
Right. Right. And it helps you carry that sense of self-pride. And I'll give you a story that happened to me in college here in Colorado in the 80s. I was in a class called the Chicano Experience, and it was about the Chicano experiences in Chicago and in Los Angeles and other cities like that. And I was one of only a couple African Americans in that class, and we had a break, and we were taking a 10-minute break, and there was a hockey player that I knew, and he pulled me aside, and he was from a small town in North Dakota, and he goes, Slim, I just want to let you know that not only being in this class has helped me understand, but seeing you here and listening to you speak, I have a different viewpoint because I came from a small town in North Dakota. There are no African Americans there. And all I saw on TV was the pimps, the drug dealers, the pushers. And I had this certain view of African Americans. But after knowing you and seeing you in class and talking to you and stuff like that, I have now, it does affect not only us as African American as a people, but it will affect others as well too. You carry that sense of self-pride and self-confidence. So others, you'll be an example towards other people as well.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off that, I was the first to many. One guy didn't realize, I guess, that I can read and understood Krebs cycle so well that I can recite Krebs cycle. And asked for my assistance. I had a guy in the Army, never been around, black people before, from Stone Mountain, Georgia. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that place, but that's the place in Georgia that has the large monument for the Confederate soldiers. Never been around a black person before in his life until basic training. And we got real tight. I was his best man at his wedding. So I've been a first for a lot of people, and I don't think it's a bad thing. Hopefully one day we can get past that. But I think for me personally, for America to succeed, we just got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. You know, we have to celebrate what this country is. This is not Iran. This is not South Korea, North Korea either. We are a melting pot. We have the keys to whatever we want to become here. But for us to make that next jump into where we should and where we all want to be, we have to become appreciative of what everybody, brings to the table.
Excellent answer, Coach, and Slim. You guys handled that very well. I wanted to kind of get back to some things that we talked about on the last podcast, just to kind of update and see where you guys think we are. And we kind of talked a little bit about police reform, but with Chauvin sentencing and so forth. But I don't know if any of you guys are really up to date on what's happening. But how do you guys feel about where that's headed? And I guess I guess maybe if you put it in a word, emotions. Are you hopeful? Do you think anything that's happened in the past 10 months, looks promising in that area? Dwayne, I'll let you go first on this one.
So in the past 10 months, other than, like I said, the showcase was a real huge blow to how police instantly react to stuff. How can I word this? Pretty much on the same time we talked about earlier, it's going to be a slow process when change is made. There is going to be some changes that are going to be made, but it's one of those wait and see what happens.
Yeah. Jeff, I want to get your thoughts here, because when I guess between George Floyd, his murder and Chauvin's sentencing, there was a lot of talk about major reform, in some police departments and that. I don't know if any of that's really happening. So what's your thought about where things might be headed there?
I think there's more public accountability at this point than there was even a year ago, which is a good thing. I don't think you're going to change that culture overnight. There was just a story here in town about the city of Solon, where you and I graduated from high school, Rod. Mm-hmm. They were flying the thin blue line flag along with the other flags in front of the buildings. And Solon has become a much more diverse community since we lived there. And they were getting a lot of feedback, a lot of pushback on that flag because of what it has come to represent. So the mayor made the decision, I think it was the mayor, made the decision to take that. They ordered that flag to be taken down. About a week later, I saw another story that said that they had decided to go back to the original flag that that it was called something else. I don't remember what it was called, but it was a slightly different type of flag that represented law enforcement and support for law enforcement. And they decided that they were going to put that flag back up, but they wanted to get community reaction and so forth. So I guess the point in all of this is it started a dialogue. What did that flag really represent? Why were they flying it? And how could they be more responsive to the community that they're all there to serve? And a lot of people got upset for one reason or another, but in the end, they came to a solution that worked for everybody. And that's what America is supposed to be about. We're supposed to compromise and find ways to coexist, and celebrate each other's differences, as opposed to resenting people for being different. But it goes back to what I was saying earlier about there are certain elements who have sort of hijacked patriotism, have hijacked supporting the police department. We've seen it play out in a lot of different ways, and we have to see that for what it is. It's people who are playing us to try to stay in power.
Yeah. So, Coach, do you agree with? I would say, do you agree with Jeff? But what I really mean is, do you feel like this dialogue is something that is open more places around the country, maybe from your experience or things that you've heard? And do you feel any more comfortable that police reform is maybe headed in the right direction?
For me personally, the police reform, for one, they need more police officers. The irony behind that is that the people that are always constantly bringing up certain places having high crime rates are the same places where people don't want to pay more taxes, which is crazy to me. Mm-hmm. So what I think, we need to have police officers actually living in the community that they're policing. Somehow they need to recruit young people, to the police department that's from that neighborhood or that knows of that neighborhood. I think stuff like that matters big time, especially in the city, more so probably in a country town like where I was at. Also, these police officers need time off. They need breaks. I have a few soldiers of mine who are police officers. They're in the war zone every day. As much as I want to jump on police officers, for what some of them do to few bad apples, a lot of them are actually trying to do the very best they can. But once again, it's no excuse for the ones that, have bad behavior. So for the reforms, just like Jeff was saying, there is a tactic in place to feed on folks that want to think the worst way possible. I see it on the news a lot from, opinion journalists, or if you want to call them that. And, just like in the past, I think it was Teddy Roosevelt, or was it? I think it was Teddy Roosevelt that was talking about, using race as a means to divide folks, to get their minds off of the real war, which is class, the have and have nots. And I think they have done an effective job on their messaging. Everything has been hijacked. I remember when the support the Blue Lives, the flag came out. I mean, it was nothing to see, in Memphis, folks, black and white, with that tag on the back of their car at the front. And then all of a sudden, it got co-opted into, I guess it's MAGA movement or something like that. And a lot of other things got co-opted into that as well. So what appears to me is that things that started off with good intentions ended up being destroyed. by people that had differing plans. As for reform, I really haven't been paying much attention to it. I've noticed that there's a little bit more conversation going on. I still see, of course, on Twitter, if somebody gets pulled over, you should have complied. But it seemed like dialogue has been started. At least you have more police commissioners who are actually trying to have sit downs in communities. They're trying to tackle the problem, but I just think that in order to get that done, you're going to have to see more leaders from the top getting their hands dirty in this as well. And basically, I think President Biden and his team came up with like a grant of some kind for good behavior for officers and stuff like that. I don't know. I think that you do have to have a force that lives within that community, that lives in that area, to where the folks there know who that police officer is, and they respect that police officer is not going to go, outside the bounds. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Definitely.
So Slim, I think it's appropriate that we let you close out this segment on police reform with anything that you might want to add or anything that you might be aware of.
Yeah, it's a slow process. I'm just basically rehashing everything that Dwayne and Coach and everybody else has said, that it has to be more community. It has to start also at the top. They're still fighting in Washington on what exactly the definition of police reform is going to be. I think to protect and serve needs to mean protect and serve everybody. Have to have officers more so in a community. I just remember growing up with my father and how much he was involved in the community as a deputy sheriff. He was pretty much everywhere where I was growing up and my brother and sister were growing up. He volunteered to patrol football games and basketball games and activities like that, where he was seen in the community. And I guess to be seen in the community is to be respected. You have to get that respect by being in the community and listening to what the community has to say, the issues, the good and the bad. You have to have the police there. You won't have any type of reform until you get involved with the community and to help and protect and serve everybody, not just to protect and serve a certain population. It's going to be a process. The dialogue has started, I think, with Chauvin and a little bit of accountability is there. Let's see if it continues, if it will continue and keep going. Like I said earlier, we just have to keep pushing and we just have to keep fighting for that goal. We just can't let it waft off to where it's forgotten about. We just got to keep pushing and keep reminding, and hopefully we will have a type of reform that this country, that will better this country, that this country can be proud of.
Yeah, let's hope so. We talked a bit last time about systemic racism and economic disadvantages. Guys, it's been 10 months. I think of all the stuff we've talked about, that's going to be, this is going to be the issue that's going to linger for the longest. We can all get along as Americans, and I think there's still going to be, economic disadvantages to overcome that are just going to take, probably quite a while. I don't know that really enough has changed there for us to even address that at this point. It's probably too soon. We also talked about, trying to find common ground. I guess I think when we talked about that, I think we just talked about getting the word out in that, and obviously we're trying to do that. So by doing things like this, and by doing what Jeff does by talking with friends and everything, and anybody that he encounters, that he has a chance to. I guess what I'll do at this point is go to Jeff and say, Jeff, are there any topics or any angles you feel like we haven't covered at this point?
Well, we're over 2 hours into this, so I think
I just kind of wanted to give everybody a shot. Anything you want to bring up before we wrap this baby up. So.
Yeah. No, I think you know what we're transitioning from racism to race relations. We have to find a better way to relate to each other. That's how we will eradicate the bad apples. And, just spending 2 hours with a group like this and sharing our thoughts, I think is a great step in that direction.
That's right. Coach, what would you like to add?
Just one thing. I just for everybody that's listening, January 6th, and I want people to understand my thinking on January 6th. I'm not going to be long, I promise. January 6th, I went off. I was training. Was gone for about 3 weeks into my training, and then I get a call from my sister telling me what was going on. What I want Americans to understand is that 6 was probably one of the hardest things I've ever seen, because I actually turned my phone on. What went through my mind was the colors of that flag. So when I look at the American flag, of course, it's beautiful to me, but the red in that flag to me symbolizes the blood, the sacrifices that every single person in this country has made, and that continues to make on a day in and day out basis. We all make sacrifices by getting up in the morning to go to work, because we never know if we're going to come back. We make sacrifices all the time. We don't even think about it. We saw Martin Luther King give one of his greatest speeches near there. You've seen presidents give their addresses from there. And to see people go through that Capitol as if it was a doggone park was a tremendous shame. That was not patriotism. That was something else. I can't say a person is un-American, because, hell, we really don't know what the definition of what it really means to be an American is all about. But at least after that day, we could have united as a country. We could have united and celebrated folks who have passed and paid the ultimate price by coming together and saying with one voice that was wrong. I hope that folks don't look at that as being some form of heroism, standing up to the man, because it wasn't. That was a slap in the face to those who was in the Revolutionary War, to those who were in the Civil War, and every war that America has fought in. And wars are not necessarily overseas. They're right here, fighting for women's rights, the civil rights movement, LBGQT movement. Those are wars in themselves. But that building should have never been desecrated the way it was. That's all I got on that one.
Definitely agree. Yeah. Thanks, Coach. Dwayne, do you have closing thoughts or anything you'd like to add?
Last thing I gotta say is I appreciate each and every last one of you guys. You always bring so much insight to the table, and everybody always comes with a pleasant thought, and it's good to always have these topics and be able to have this open discussion. From like I said, a plethora of things. We talked about, the little girl winning the spelling bee and the Olympics, and we talked about the president's races and economy. We talked about a whole bunch of different things. So it's good to talk about a plethora of different things, and everybody comes on one accord to either agree or agree to disagree. And like I said, these conversations that we have is what I feel that it takes for us as people to end this battle of, like you said, of racism or what's the word you use? Race relations. To start building those.
Yeah, that's what Jeff said. Yeah, race relations. Yeah.
To start building those relationships back and more positive format. So I appreciate the opportunity again, as always, to be on this podcast and to get the chance to see what you guys think and what's going on with you guys. I know it's almost a year, so we got to do this a lot sooner than a year from now. But
sounds good. Thanks, Dwayne. Slim, what do you have for us?
I just want to thank everybody. Thank you, Rod, for bringing us together again. It's been too long. I always enjoy these conversations, enjoy these topics that you bring up. You see we go always over 2 hours. It probably could go 2 hours more,
Easily.
It's just great that we're able to sit here as men, as different people, even though that Dwayne, me, and Coach are African American, we each have our own different experiences, therefore different way of seeing things. And it's great not only to speak, but it's just great to sometimes we forget to listen. And you brought up before the whole topic of being empathetic. I think America has lost a little bit of that, and part of getting that empathy back is listening. You don't have to agree on everything, but it's good to listen, to have an open mind. And then maybe as you pull away maybe from this podcast, to sit and think about the topics that were discussed tonight, and I just think it's a great opportunity for people. I hope a lot of people will turn around and listen to when you have these podcasts. I mean, you do great sports, but also I think this is just as important to it. And I remember when you first decided to do this 10 months ago, you weren't sure how things were going to turn out. And you've done a great thing by doing this. And I hope you think of me again when you decide to do this again, to be on the panel. I'll always come, whenever you ask. So thank you all once again. It's always great to be here.
Always, man. I appreciate you too, Mr. Rod, Jeff.
Absolutely, guys. Appreciate you. Well, guys, we have different backgrounds. We may not always agree on everything, but we have common goals here, and that's to talk about this issue, race relations, and of course the other things that go with it. And until we can address each other simply as Americans and as brothers, we're going to keep talking. This has been the Browns Blitz, and we will catch you next time.